And we'll be talking to Sherwin Brouwer-Spies a little bit later on, again on the programme, to get some final thoughts on the eve of the US election. Well, for more on this upcoming presidential election, we're now joined by Washington-based political and international relations researcher David Bridgman. Thanks very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much, and very nice to be here today.
All right, so what's the mood like around Washington on the eve of what many are saying the most important election in recent decades?
Well, I think in Washington itself, it's predominantly a democratic city. As you know, President Trump likes to refer to it as the swamp. So the mood here is considerable concern, but a pretty strong expectation that the Democrats will prevail, but concern that very possibly Trump will prevail as he did 4 years ago.
All right, so some are calling this a referendum on his presidency, but I suspect that it's more about, you've got 40% who will vote Democrat no matter what, 40% who will vote Republican no matter what, and it's that 20% in the middle that are probably going to decide who's the next president. What are they looking at to help them make up their mind?
Well, I think the surprise which Donald Trump gave us all a few years ago was unearthing this block of discontented, poorer, predominantly white voters in much of the rural areas and small towns who had felt they'd been left aside and pushed aside and ignored under globalization. And he was able to pull this group in and join them to the traditional Republican supporting party and tie on to that even stronger support from the evangelical Christian grouping, whose main concern has been around abortion. So he put together a coalition of those three groups, only partly overlapping, which brought him to power. Now, the question right now on the Democrat side, whereas on the Democrat side, not everyone went to the polls. There had been a strong turnout for Obama, but then for Clinton, she was not as popular. So the Democratic approach to addressing this has been to try and get more and more people to the polls. And the major convening power that they've found has been around the appalling handling of the COVID pandemic in the United States, and the way the United States has handled it relatively poorly compared to other countries. So whereas the United States likes to believe it has the strongest and best health system in the world, patently they haven't. And the Democrats are trying to use this as the major issue on which to turn the election.
So which guns is Trump firing on? What is he saying? I know the economy was one of his things.
This is what Trump's been pushing on throughout. He's been saying, I'm actually all about the economy. I reduce taxes, I reduce regulation, I'm allowing more energy, fracking, etc. to strengthen, and I'm all about only supporting America, and we don't worry about the rest of the world. And I will continue to put you first and foremost. Of course, everyone wants to put Americans first. This is an American election. But the question is over the time frame. He's saying, I will do everything for you now. And he's still trying to say, look, the economy is not doing so well now, but it was doing wonderfully until the coronavirus came. And of course, this is a global pandemic, which he says, of course, came from China. And not to worry, now we're turning the corner. As he keeps saying, we're rounding the turn. And the new vaccines and treatments which have been developed will put coronavirus in the background, and then you have to rebuild the economy, and he's the man to do it. Whereas he claims if you give it to Biden, you're going to have the radical left socialist group, as he defines them, includes Antifa, who will come in and have riots in your cities and destroy your property rights.
All right, if we go back to 2016 and you talk about those people that didn't show up to the vote for Hillary Clinton, and in the end, actually, Donald Trump scraped through, literally, by such a small margin. He completely lost the popular vote. So the question must be, 4 years on, has he added to that small amount of people that got him over the line, largely as a result of people not showing up?
Yes, and certainly tensions are high. I believe he's kept most of his grouping. But the stakes are far, far higher now, and this is what the Democratic Party is trying to remind people. 4 years ago, first, nobody really thought President Trump would prevail. Even he didn't think he would win when he started. He thought he was building his name recognition to build a TV network. And then when suddenly he tapped into this well of unhappiness, he moved himself to the top. Secondly, people weren't too concerned because even if by some chance he did get in, the Republican Party would never let him implement his crazy populist policies. Now we've learned that they will. He's got them cowering and supporting all his policies. And now, 4 years ago, he had to learn how to take power and exercise power in the United States. Now he's got that power. He's pulled it together. So he can do a whole lot more damage over the next 4 years than he's done in the previous 4 years, where he's really undone much of the United States' soft power that they'd spent 70 years building around the world.
It seems as if his base will support him regardless of what he says. I mean, he's saying Fauci must go. He refuses to take a stance against white supremacists. He mishandled the Black Lives Matter campaign, and he's losing support from suburban white women. Why is it that his popularity seems to stick still?
Firstly, there is one grouping who are single-issue voters. They vote abortion. And they want abortion to be banned. And for them, he has delivered 3 Supreme Court justices. 1/3 of the United States Supreme Court has been appointed by Donald Trump. And he's selected judges who are very conservative, and they see an opportunity to overturn the important Roe versus Wade decision, which bans abortion in America. And that's all they're voting on. They don't like him as a person. They accept that as an individual, he appears to be very morally corrupt, but they're only focusing on abortion. So he keeps that grouping for that side. And then some of the poorer people feel that he's doing his very best in their interests against the amorphous Washington bureaucracy who they see not on their side.
All right, David Bridgman, we're going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, but thanks so much indeed for your insights tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that's Washington-based political and international relations researcher David Bridgman speaking to us from Washington, a city that's seeing its shops being boarded up because people are concerned what might happen in the aftermath of this election.